So this is Maisie's Roadmap to Success, and she pretty much only had a couple things going on, but I wanted to remind the guardians of how to work through her dog reactivity issues. And by reactivity, I don't mean anything aggressive necessarily. It just means that when she sees a dog or a person walking by the house, she reacts, and that means barking, getting all worked up. So one of the things we use is the behavior adjustment training, or BAT, which is the video above this one, so I'll refer you to watching that video to go over that. But the other method that we used was counter conditioning, and there's two different parts to that. So remember, we discussed putting up something in front of those two windows so that way when you're not able to actively work with her, she's prevented from actually barking and doing things like that. Because if she keeps doing it when you're not working with her, then it's undoing all the positive training that you're doing. At some point you can take those blockades down, but in the beginning you want to stop her and prevent her from doing that type of behavior. So what you want to do with the counter conditioning is there's two different ways. One, you can start off with having a treat. Remember, take a treat and squish it between your fingers so she can kind of nibble at it. And then you want to take the treat, put your fingers like this, and then put it under her chin so you can put her head kind of wherever you want, because she'll be so focused on the food that you can then direct her face and her eye gaze in any direction you want. So if you're at the window and she's not looking out the window on her own, you can use that method to help direct her attention, okay? The other time period this is really useful is if you're working outside or you're working with a dog walking by on the street. If you're working outside, definitely have her on a leash, even if you're in the yard, or at least initially, so she doesn't take off and you lose control. If she's on a leash, try to keep it loose on her body so it's not pulling, because you want her, the main method for why she's not running and barking is because you're using a treat to incentivize her, not pulling her back. But the leash is there to prevent her from all of a sudden bolting and taking off on you. So if you're working outside, you can use that same method. Say a dog is walking by, use that counter conditioning to have her watch the dog, give her treats while she's watching the dog walk by. Once the dog has walked by, stop giving treats and keep her walking on. That way she's not getting rewarded for the dog passing her. We want to reward her for when the dog's approaching her, right near her, and not barking. Once the dog leaves, she's less likely to bark, so that's when we want to stand up and walk away, okay? The other thing that we do when we're inside and things are a little more relaxed, or this is the next step in the counter conditioning method, which you can eventually do outside as well, is the look exercise. So remember, let her look on her own. If a dog is right here, when she looks, say look, give her a treat. Look, give a treat. You don't want to force her to look. This is where she starts to gain a little more control. So she looks on her own, you say the word look, then you give her a treat. In the beginning, if here's the dog, she'll look, treat. Look, treat. After a while, you start to have a longer delay. So it's look, then treat. And you start to increase that amount of time so she starts to get more practice. The other steps that you want to take, we'll go back to the example of over by the window, is starting to reduce how wonderful the treat value is. So if you start off with hot dogs or tricky trainer treats, eventually getting down to using something more like a biscuit or something, or a Cheerios, something lower grade, so it's not as highly rewarding, so we can start to wean her off of the process. So first, increase how long you can wait between her looking and getting the treat without barking. So time is the first thing that you want to focus on. When you have accomplished that, start to decrease the value of the treat. Then the next level is to start to be farther away. So start to move down a stair or two from where you're sitting to where she is. So you're creating physical distance between her and yourself, so you can eventually not have to stand right next to her. At some point, you should be able to stand at the bottom of the stairs, say, she looks out the window, you say, look, she comes over, you give her a treat, she can go back up, or run around the house. If she runs around the house, even better, because it means that she's actually giving up looking outside and barking. So those are the different levels that I want to encourage you to use in that order. And then the last thing I want to remind you of is everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.